Well, whoever you are, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, and whoever you're doing it to, let's all hope for the sake of your sanity and your health and well-being, you're not doing it in the Type 28 Proto like I was for quite some time this week. This is another one of those tanks where all the boys in Grump and my mates said, hey, why are you driving that thing? Why do I have to platoon with you when you're driving that thing? You're just going to drag my win rate down. And golly, didn't I do my best to do just that. I don't like the tank. Not a big fan of it. And it joins a very, very select set of company that I just really don't like. I did the review mainly because I get so many questions here on the channel about the Proto. Lots of people ask, could you do a review of the T28 Proto? And don't be fooled by this little collage, this little collection of media where I'm shooting people and they're blowing up. For the most part with the Proto, it was the other way around. Now, you wouldn't know from the stats. I mean, I did about 2k average damage, which is not especially amazing for a tier 8 tank, but it's solid. And we didn't have the best average. I ran this on my exhibition account, so you can't see the stats, but it was just sub 60%, which is pretty sad because for the most part, any tier 8 tank you roll out, if you're any good, you should be able to run it at 60% or better. And I just could not get this thing across the line. And there's a reason for that. It is slower than a mouse. It is horrifically slow. And its speed and lack of traverse and lack of mobility mean that even though it's got a turret, it's very hard to fire and pull back without taking it. Look how fast I'm pulling back. My God. Look at it. I mean, if those guys had any kind of motive skills and got forward at all, I would have been cactus. And you can see here, your top-notch, flat-out speed in this thing is 18 kilometers an hour. 18. Top-notch. Like, you get outrun by a tortoise. It's horrific. Your traverse numbers, 20 degrees on your tracks, 18 on your turret. It's tough. It's got 200 millimeters of armour at the front, but the sides are very, very thin. And if you over-angle at all, you'll get wrecked, like lit up deluxe. So you've got to be really careful. But even then, 203 millimeters on the front is great, but there's tanks at tier 7, like the Type 62, for instance, that have 250 millimeters on their heat. So even angling the tank, you can't get it over what a tier 7 tank can fire in terms of pramo. And the other thing is the speed. You can see here we are on the New Falls Creek and I'm pushing out. I've just been left in the dirt. I can't do anything about it. I've got to turn around because if I don't turn around, I'll just get shot in the butt. And let's have a look at it from the other side because I had a game also where this happened to me and it was from the other spawn. Now, it does have some good things. It's got 10 degrees of gun depression and the turret's strong. The turret is strong, but it's open. So if anyone gets above you and hits you with HE, boom, like you'll know about it. You're a tier 8 TD, so you don't have a lot of hit points. I mean, the AT has 1450. Swiss and I were talking about it earlier. This thing has 1150 hit points, which is less than 3 shots from an IS-6, IS-3 Defender, T-34, anything with 400 alpha. And that's what you've got, 400 alpha. The gun has pretty solid numbers. You've got 5.94 rounds a minute. So you've got 6 rounds a minute at 400 alpha. Pen-wise, lovely. 248 millimeters of pen on your AP. 300 millimeters of pen orber on your AP-CR, or 297, which is great. And 400 alpha is at that speed, it'll give you 2400 damage per minute, which is great damage per minute. It's really lovely. And you can see here when you're in a position to consistently use that alpha, wow, don't you do well. Unlike a lot of turreted TDs though, it's very, very difficult to get this TD turning in a way that stops you from being circle of death or outmaneuvered in terms of position. I had to turn here so early. I mean, you can see where I am. I've barely gotten out of respawn, despite the fact that everyone else has bailed it and got through, and Swiss and I are the last ones left. God bless you, Swiss, for sticking around while I reviewed this bloody hunk of junk. I mean, and the gun, the other thing is, and you're going to see a couple of shots here, it's 2.9 seconds of aim time at 0.39 dispersion. Now that is not friendly. 2.9 seconds of aim time at 0.39 dispersion will get you an awful lot of missed shots on snapshots, which is how we ended up going. And you can see there's just way too many targets. We put one in there and Swiss manages to knock him off, and it's now 1-on-2. This shot had gone in, I might have been a chance. But it was always going to be a tough ask. I was just hoping this SU would come across. But look at the turret traverse. So slow, painfully slow. Painfully slow. And speed is where it's at in this game. I run this with binoculars, a gun lane drive, and a rammer. There's just no other option. I mean, you can see this guy's going straight through the front of my tank with heat. And armour's all well and good until it doesn't work anymore. And then it just doesn't work and it's pointless, and there's no reason for you to be in a tank that is so slow. And that's the other thing. I don't understand why this tank is so slow. Look at this. I mean, you can't back up, you can't jump there. The thing does 2 or 3 kilometers at times up. Pig tank, I said. I'm not happy with this tank. Look, you can snipe with it, and that's all well and good. You can side scrape with it, and that's all well and good, but the sides are so thin they can get overmatched by something like a Borsig, and no one has any troubles whatsoever putting shells in as they drive past. You can get COD to just about anything in this. It's slower than a mouse. It's super slow. If you're going to drive it, you've got to find places to side scrape with it. You've got to find places where you've got hard cover left and right, because despite the fact that it is one of the most heavily armoured TDs in its tier, if not the most heavily armoured, it still gets penned so easily, because once you're spotted and you're in even the slightest bit of a compromising position, I mean, look at me going up this hill. Look at it. It is so slow. So the thing about this tank, the T28 on its own is slightly better in terms of armour, but for the same problems. And the T95 is infinitely better in terms of armour, but has the same problems. Once you learn how to play the game, getting trapped inside a tank like this in manoeuvre fighting can be absolutely devastating. And the fact that it goes, like, give it at least 25 kilometers an hour as a top speed. Keep the traverse and everything where it is. It's just way too slow for this kind of gameplay. Look at, you take your shot, and then you've got to get your angles perfect, because if you don't, you'll get penned. Heat will go through you all the time. HE will go through an AU251, by the way. Ding ding. We've moved to this position here because it gives us a good field of view. It gives us somewhere to side scrape off. And I would have loved to have hit that IS-6, because I think that IS-6 is one of the ID guys or OXO guys. And they're a very good clan, so they're going to be the best players in the enemy team. So you want to get rid of them first, but he was too quick. I had to take the Luva. Oh god, I hate this tank. I can't stop saying it. You get spoiled. Once you become anywhere near proficient at this game, you become someone who loves maneuverability, loves mobility, loves positional play and tactical play. And this tank robs you of that opportunity. You can see as I slowly work my way to the right and to the left and try and find a position to side scrape off, and realise my angle's not straight enough, and you can't just jerk the tank around and correct that angle. You have to have it ready and set at the correct angle, or you're going to get screwed. I'll tell you what it can do, is it can pen IS-3s, IS-6s, IS-3 defenders, and it can pen them and hurt them really badly, because it's got 400 alpha at 6 rounds a minute, and that is a lot of damage per minute. 2400 will get you through the night. It's not huge though, and the alpha is no different to what an IS-3 or an IS-6 or an IS-3 Defender or a T-34 and those kind of tanks is running. They all run with 400 alpha. You run with an extra round per minute or round 0.96 per minute, which is important. But when you're in a peek-a-boom situation, it can be mitigated. And that's why you prefer a tank to have a big alpha damage gun when it's like this. Because if you had, say, a BL9 or a BL10, sorry, or like the ISU-152, or even the 152mm ML1952 off the SU-152, or give it the 150mm off the T95. Like if you had those kind of guns on this tank, it would mean that you could set up for one shot, shoot, pull back, and you'd be apples, which is what you do with, say, the Borsig or the ISU-152 or any of those tanks. This doesn't get that kind of opportunity, and that's important because that makes life very, very difficult when you have to be on target to do your damage, when you have to be visible to do your damage, when you don't get time to reset camo before you've got to go out and do your damage again. So if I had to give any advice at all, I mean, we played it to nearly 60%, and it was rough because Tier 8 is tough. You get a lot of IS-6s, you get a lot of IS-3 Defenders, and they're tough tanks to beat. If I could give any advice, it would be learn to turn early. And by that, I mean, you saw in that game on Falls Creek, if the team takes off without you, you're just going to have to face the fact that at times you're going to be the idiot left at the back who has no choice but to turn early and face overwhelming odds. And in a game that quite often has an awful lot of mediums and light tanks rolling around the joint, that can be a bitter pill to swallow. And especially when you've got IS-3s and IS-3 Defenders and they all get out there at about 40 kilometers an hour and they get pretty bolshy and pretty aggressive. That can really ruin your lunch. I'd love to see Wargaming give this tank just another 5 to 6 kilometers an hour in top end speed and let it keep up with the rest of the pack, because its armour is not that special. I mean, there are 150mm sections on either side of the turret, and the turret doesn't traverse very quickly. And once you're spotted, you've only got one section of armour that works. Everything else is pointless, and that's the front of the tank, looking at it directly forward. As soon as you start to angle that, you're in big trouble. So be prepared to turn early. Quite often your best bet is going to be to snipe, and as much as I hate to say it, on Falls Creek, your best bet might be to camp the bridge. There's nothing worse in this thing than turning and heading off and everyone else going into the distance down the flank, and you're left holding the bucket while the Type 62 Dragons of this world pop up behind you and smash you. So I'm Bushka on Blitz. I know this wasn't the most fun and dandy video. Put this one in with the Type 61, the original FV215B 183. My feelings on the Tiger P. I think that's another tank that's just been left behind by a power creep, and I think that's very much what's happened here. You have all these really good premium tanks at Tier 8 now in terms of heavies, and this tank struggles against those kind of tanks. It doesn't have a lot of hit points. It doesn't have the armor profile to bounce those shots all the time. And there's not a lot of Route 1 side-scraping positions for a TD that can get there 10 minutes after everyone else is either dead or moved on. You don't have the mobility to follow pretty much anyone. You've just got to make your decision at the start of the game and stick to it, and fingers crossed it's the right one, because if it's not, you'll quite often be isolated against a lot of mobile tanks, and it's very frustrating to not be able to do anything about that. I'm Bushka on Blitz. I hope you enjoyed, took some educational joy from the T28 Proto video. I know some of you might not agree and you'll think it's great. And don't get me wrong, I mean, you could probably run it at 60% if you wanted to and get it rolling, or you could get better than that, I guess. I'm not sure. I'm not the man for it. I don't have the patience, and I don't have the wherewithal to just sit there at the back waiting, because I don't have any other options. If you're camping in this tank and you push and you choose the wrong turn to push and you're stuck in the middle of an open field, you're screwed. There's no way around it. People will hit you, reset their camo, hit you again, reset their camo. You just don't want to be there. So tactically, you've really got to be on your money, and you've got to be thinking all the time. And even then, if people don't come your way, you just left. So that's it. The Type 28 Proto. For hell or high water, that's what it is. Now, if you haven't considered sponsoring the channel, rock on over to Patreon. Jump in the water there. It is a whole lot of fun that we're having there. I'm Bushka on Blitz. Look after your family and stay safe on the battlefield.